I've passed through the Moon Gate into the peaceful gardens of the Cash Estate. Joining me today is Linda Horn, who helped coordinate the design efforts of this beautiful oasis. Thanks for joining me today.
Thanks, Kim.
Could you just give me a little background about this project?
Sure. The house was built roughly in the 1950s, and obviously you can see it's kind of contemporary feel. Lots been done in the past 3 years, of course, but through that period of time, there were a lot of trees and wonderful, unique plant material put on the property, and of course got sort of overgrown, and so a lot of that stuff was cleaned out in the beginning phases of this project, and some of it was kept. So it's a really neat, unique combination of some of the old and a lot of new, both with the house, the structure of the house, and the garden.
Well, some of the features that I find really intriguing, I guess, there's a lot of very bold architecture elements in stone as well as structures,
Right.
and also a great deal of water.
One of the unique features of this property is the amount of water. And everywhere you stand inside the house and look outside, you either see or hear it, or both. And so it's really pretty interesting. A lot of the waterways almost look like they kind of connect to one another. There's bridges and rocks, different features that sort of pull everything together and make it all work.
And there's some unique waterways. You don't often see a small stream like this with the cement bed.
And this is brand new. Ultimately, everything here for the most part is a work in progress. A true garden's never finished, and that's very true in a Japanese garden environment, because you're constantly pruning, working with plant material to it's a structured garden made to look unstructured and natural. And that's kind of where it's at right now. So ultimately they'll probably put some stones around the side of the stream bed and make everything sort of fit nicely.
The house itself has stone everywhere, and then throughout the landscape there is a ton of stone, many
Everything
tons.
works together.
Yeah, and the way the stones are positioned are just so interesting with these upright forms. And that's very much in the style of the Japanese garden. Do you want to just tell me a little bit about that and how?
You bet. Well, in the Japanese style, every stone has a place, and every stone has a meaning. And when Hiroshi was picking out these stones and we were working with them on placement, everything had either a feel of a mountain area or maybe even the plains, and some of them have animal names. You've seen the turtle stone, and there's a dolphin stone and a whale stone. Some of them have unique features that sort of mimic animals and elements in nature.
Absolutely, and as we walk around, you can see the nature just melting in with the house.
Good.
And everything.
It feels good. Like, even a whale belongs here. So it's really a unique situation. Dirt was moved and mountains were created, or not really true mountains, but there were berms made to sort of mimic mountains, and so that really kind of is unique. And also to hide some other areas, like they have a vegetable garden.
Yeah, and it's tucked back
behind. It's tucked back behind the mountain, which is really unique. Because a vegetable garden in a Japanese garden is a little bit different. So they wanted that, and so it worked really well to put it behind the mountain, and it's still beautiful.
And there's also a great many unique plants and plant forms.
Definitely.
Let's go look at some of those.
That would be great.
You can't help but notice all the bamboo that's growing out here.
Oh, it's beautiful, isn't it?
It sure is.
Spectacular. There are approximately, I think, 25 varieties here.
Oh, wow.
I remember back a ways everybody thought, oh, you couldn't grow bamboo in Oklahoma, but watch out, because sometimes there are some of them that are a little bit more invasive than others.
Yeah.
What we tried to use here are ones that were less invasive, and we used some like Castellani. There's the timber bamboos. There's just a whole slew of them. Like I said, roughly 25 varieties, most of which were grown in Oklahoma by a bamboo grower, a collector.
Oh, okay.
And he has a farm up near Guthrie.
Okay.
Where he sells bamboo. So we did bring in some from other parts of the United States, but the majority of them came from Oklahoma, which is really neat.
Some of the other materials, we have camellias, and we don't often see those in Oklahoma either.
very unusual. The beauty of these new camellias are that they're cold hardy, and also that they bloom at a time when nothing else is blooming.
Yeah.
It's a great plant for, you know, depending on variety, they can bloom anywhere from November till March, sometimes even April, and also depending on the weather. If it gets hot early, sometimes they'll quit.
Yeah.
But they're used a lot like azaleas are. They love it shady. They like a north side of a house.
They need to be
good
well
soil.
yeah,
You got to prepare
well
that
protected.
soil. And here they have very good drainage, as you can see, and very good protection. But they can get about anywhere from 15 to 20 feet tall.
Yeah.
And they come in a myriad of colors. The new Ice Angel series, which is what these are fantastic. They come in white and blush pink and a deep pink.
nice.
So you can plant lots of different ones, and they do real well.
There's also a lot of different evergreens here,
yeah.
and this is just one, another little bit different
Plum yew.
plum yew. But as we walk around, there's just a whole variety of
there's
really
a
unique
myriad of them.
evergreens.
The neat thing about the evergreens in this garden, some of them were chosen for their natural shapes, and then some of the plant material that has been here for ages and ages, some of those were worked with and started to be pruned into oriental shapes to fit the garden a little bit better. So, so a lot of the old stuff was worked with to create a good Japanese feel, and some of the new plant material was selected because of their shapes, and you know, some of them weeping, some of them are kind of have that windswept look, and then of course Japanese maples, there's some beautiful ones.
Absolutely.
And there's a paper bark maple here.
Oh, wonderful.
It's beautiful.
And the plants themselves, especially these ones that have been pruned and sculpted, have such a bold architectural form in and
like
of
this.
themselves. Yeah, this is the timber bamboo that we mentioned earlier.
This thing can grow about, 5 feet a day, maybe more. It's phenomenal. It's one that's used a lot for construction because it's very heavy. Once the bamboo hardens, it's almost impossible to penetrate. I mean, listen to that.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're used for instruments, musical instruments. Now they're using them for bamboo flooring.
Exactly.
I've seen sheets even.
I know,
So it's,
all sorts of new uses.
it's a
for
great
bamboo.
renewable resource because it grows so fast.
Another interesting feature in the garden are all of the statuary.
It's beautiful.
The homeowners told me about this one. It's a
Yes.
500-year-old statue that they'd found.
Easily, and it's a Shiba, which is a female Buddha, and they found it through an art collector, and I think it came from somewhere in Asia.
Initially. And there's
Initially,
another Buddha statue up in the pavilion here.
And there's a big, beautiful urn over by the pool that's probably that age too.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
And there's also a number of lanterns, Chinese or Japanese lanterns.
They were all made in Asia, but imported here to the United States. We got them through Stone Forest, and we've got over in that direction, we have a Ranke, which is kind of a cantilever type lantern that sort of overhangs the pond. It's just beautiful. And then a pagoda. And then there were several pieces that were custom made for the caches, and Hiroshi helped with the design on those. So really pretty.
We have this amazing waterfall here, and
It is.
the rocks are just incredible.
Big.
Now, where did these all come from?
Well, they came from Oklahoma. They came from roughly southeastern Oklahoma, different areas, and Hiroshi handpicked all of these rocks, and then, we had major cranes come in and move them all around. They're perfectly positioned. Every one was bought with a purpose, so there wasn't any waste as far as, because they are quite large.
Yes.
And as you can see, this waterfall is pretty phenomenal. It has an output of roughly 900 gallons per minute.
Oh, wow, that's amazing.
Quite a bit of water.
Yes.
The pond originally was roughly 6 to 8 feet deep, and so it was sort of resurfaced on the bottom. It was made a little bit more shallow.
Okay.
Their rocks were put in the center to mimic a mountain, and so it's really interesting. There are also some huge containers that are made out of concrete, made to look like rock, and ultimately there'll be some Victoria lilies when the time is right and the weather warms up.
Beautiful.
Those lily pads
The
can get
huge
huge,
ones.
like
Yeah.
5 feet across. They say it could support a small child.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Now, we talked before that some of the plant material is original to
Yes.
the original owners of the property.
The really unique plant material was kept, obviously. This golden lace bark elm is fabulous. There's just
It's a beautiful tree.
color, beautiful structure. During the ice storm, it got a few stress fractures in it. So Hiroshi developed this system of supporting some of the limbs, because one of the beautiful things about this tree is it's,
The way it
sort of
drapes
envelops
over.
the pond, this side of the pond, and frames the bridge very nicely. So so they wanted to keep that, and I think the tree will heal nicely because these lace barks, they grow fast and they do real well, but the ice storm sometimes pulls the branches way down. And there are some varnish trees. There's some weeping mulberries. There's an old pine that was it's an old Japanese black pine that is supported and sort of hanging over the pond, and so it's really quite interesting, the combination of some of the live oaks and all these other old trees.
The way that the plant material and the pond work together is just simply beautiful. Also, I couldn't help but notice that amazing Japanese maple over
incredible.
the waterfall. Yes.
We brought in Hiroshi, and one of our buyers and I, we actually flew out to Oregon and hand-picked those. The one on top of the waterfall is an Inaba Shidare, and it's probably about 75 years old. Specimen plant,
wonderful.
14 feet tall. You don't see Japanese maples around here that big.
Not like that.
And then there's one out at the entrance that's about 14 feet across and roughly 7 feet. And that one, I think that one is a red select, but there's several of them on the property, at least 4, and they're just specimens that
They
just
are magnificent.
spectacular.
Now, can you tell me a little bit about the designer?
Hiroshi,
Yes.
he's an awesome, very, very talented person. Like I said, all the rocks were lovingly picked out, and plant material too. He selects it for form and just for that right spot. So a lot of this takes a long time to do, and putting it together is not always that easy.
Yeah.
But he has an eye for that. He knows what he wants and has the placement in his head before he actually picks it out. So he's quite an artist. Some people paint with paint. Hiroshi paints with plants and rock and wood, and he designed this bridge and just everything that you see in the garden.
Wonderful. And a little bit about his background. You told me he
It's
grew up
very
in a
interesting.
monastery.
He grew up in a monastery. He left there when he was a teenager and went out to work, and so he learned a lot of his skills when he was at the monastery and then honed them throughout his life. Japanese master gardeners, it takes them many, many years. Not like we go to school for maybe 6 years and then get out into the workforce, but they go to school for sometimes 25, work under different master gardeners to become, true artists.
Well, let's meet Hiroshi.
Let's meet Hiroshi. Hiroshi Makita.
It's very nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
You have created a beautiful garden. I appreciate you having us out to share that with us.
Very hard work and dedication and attention to detail, right, Hiroshi?
And this is just to get started, right?
Yes.
So you have to come back again.
We'll have to come back
We'll
again.
have to come
Well,
back again.
Thanks for having
Absolutely.
us today.
Well, thank you for coming, and
You're
Hiroshi
welcome.
thanks you too, and we're happy to share this garden with
Right.
everybody. And thanks to the Cashes, we have such a beautiful treasure in Oklahoma, because they were the ones who brought Hiroshi here to Oklahoma from Pennsylvania, correct? And then where he created some beautiful gardens, and
And I
so.
appreciate your help.
Oh, you're sweet. But anyway, it was a fun process, and if it wasn't for people like that allowed this type of art to be, produced and to really appreciate the work of such great artists, we wouldn't have it here. So thanks to the Cashes for all that.
Absolutely. Thank you.
We hope you've enjoyed this classic from the Oklahoma Gardening Vault. Remember, even though these tips and techniques are timeless, there's always something new to learn in the world of gardening. By subscribing to both Oklahoma Gardening and OK Gardening Classics, you'll have access to a wealth of gardening knowledge, both classic and contemporary.